Okay. Gawn ni weld pwy sydd gyda ni yn y question and answer. If anybody's there and can hear us.
Do note in the chat section where you're zooming from. Keep the Q&A section free for more formal questions to do with the upcoming talk. But it'd be great to know who you are and where you're from, and what your background is as well, maybe.
And why you're interested in coming to listen to us today. So a little hello or shwmai from wherever you are in the chat, please. Hello, if anyone's joining us. Oh, hello.
One from Romania. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, Petra. And Barcelona. Hello, Chris.
It's fantastic. So if you're joining us, put a little note in the chat letting us know who you are and where you're from and why you're interested in this session, please.
And we shall begin shortly.
Oh, wow. Teach Swahili language and learning Spanish. Fantastic.
So Cara and myself zooming in from Wales. Both are in Carmarthenshire, West Wales, aren't we, Cara?
Yeah, we're not very far from each other.
And we both work for Prifysgol Cymru Drindod Dewi Sant, the University of Wales Trinity St David, with a keen interest in languages.
Got someone in from Switzerland. Hello, Prynhawn. Good afternoon. It's fantastic.
Iawn, byddwn ni'n barod I ddechrau, dwi'n meddwl, byddwn ni?
Dwi'n meddwl. Felly, croeso, a really big welcome from myself and my colleague, Aneirin. We're going to be with you for the next 45 minutes or so. We've been told that we're allowed to go over a little bit if we want, so we might take advantage of that. And Chris here is interested in promoting speaking in and out of the class, yeah, and getting students to record themselves. We will be talking about things like that. So when I'm presenting Aneirin, we'll keep an eye on the Q&A and vice versa. It's a bit of a whistle-stop tour, isn't it, Aneirin? We don't have a lot of time, but we've got a lot of things that we want to share with you. But we know that you can go back and watch the recording again. So I am going to share my screen and we'll get started. Okay. Dyna ni. Aneirin, wyt ti'n gallu gweld fy sgrin?
Ydw, dwi'n gallu gweld, yes, I can see that.
A dwi'n rhannu?
Wyt ti'n rhannu.
Fantastic. So Aneirin and I will be slipping in and out of Welsh as we go along. Anything that you don't understand or want us to go into, just note that in the chat. Felly, dyma beth, this is what we're going to be doing with you. Who are we? We're going to just introduce ourselves again very quickly, talk about Welsh as a second language and the situation in Wales. We're going to focus, to begin with, on the Welsh Language Charter. We're going to look at a case study, share some ideas, and hopefully get some ideas from you as well. And then we're going to look at poetry beyond the classroom. So let's get stuck in here. So as Aneirin said, we both work with Rhagoriaeth at the University of Wales Trinity St David. And we specialise in enhancing language delivery within school settings. We offer comprehensive training in methodological frameworks and fostering grassroots innovation in language education. So I'll be highlighting the exceptional initiatives underway at a local school, led by Cheryl Richards. A big thank you, diolch yn fawr I Cheryl. And she's one of the 5 alumna on staff at Portmead Primary School, who's attended the Welsh Language Sabbatical Scheme, a government-funded programme where teachers come out of school for 1 or 2 terms to trochi, to immerse themselves in the Welsh language. Diolch Aneirin. And Cheryl told me that training on the course not only increased her confidence with the Welsh language, but it's what empowered her to champion transformation throughout the whole of the school, and it gave her the confidence to support other teachers. So there's our email addresses. Feel free to get in touch with us after this presentation, and again, share your ideas, ask any questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to note, to second what Cara said, Rhagoriaeth has a speciality in teaching Welsh to adults. We also teach students who are training to be teachers, and personally, a keen practitioner of poetry as a creative writing practitioner in schools, but also a multilingual speaker of Breton and Welsh and French and Spanish and English, and learning Portuguese as well. But yeah, and Cara has a keen interest on forward-thinking techniques in language learning as well. Iawn, symudwn ni mlaen, let's move on.
Diolch yn fawr yn Eirin, diolch. Yeah, there's quite a lot of things that we do, isn't there? Yeah. Felly, y Gymraeg fel ail iaith, Welsh as a second language, we could probably do a whole session on those terms in themselves. But for those of you who are unfamiliar with the situation in Wales, in response to a disappointing census results in 2011, the government introduced a policy, miliwn o siaradwyr erbyn 2050. So 1 million Welsh speakers by the year 2050. And this is a very ambitious initiative, and it serves as a rallying call to all the people of Wales, not just for Welsh speakers, but to everybody in Wales. And it provides a comprehensive infrastructure that acknowledges the interconnectedness of all of the stakeholders to maintain and grow further a bilingual nation for everybody. So, siaradwyr newydd, new Welsh speakers. Specifically relevant to our role as Welsh language educators, this policy underscores that achieving the million speaker goal cannot rely solely on intergenerational transmission. It emphasises the imperative of generating new Welsh speakers through the education system, highlighting the importance of equipping individuals to confidently use Welsh in their daily communication, that there's a Welsh language for all and a Welsh language that can be used by all the time. So what
there's also a gradual moving away, isn't there, Cara, from the idea of a second language, and that the language is on a continuum. So it's developing the use of language as a skill that people in secondary, English medium secondary schools and Welsh medium secondary schools can meet each other along that continuum, whatever their background.
Yeah, a lot more cooperation, and that this idea of fluency, that everybody who speaks some Welsh is a Welsh speaker and can become a more fluent Welsh speaker. And perhaps taking away some of the stigma that's attached to being a Welsh second language speaker. Yeah, bendant, definitely. So what this is called for is a change in mindset. And in the field of language policy and planning, we take into account the concept of prestige, which encompasses status, value, self-image, self-worth, and self-perception of individuals who speak Welsh, but also for those who are in the process of learning Welsh. And that ties into what we've just said, that there has been some stigma in the past, and having this continuum, that everybody in Wales is on that continuum, reduces that stigma. We encourage our educators to harness the power of motivational language, iaith ysgogol, which is key to fostering a positive attitude towards using Welsh. The government is currently actively engaged in a project called Llais, and Llais means voice. And it's aimed at reshaping the discourse surrounding Welsh language usage, or the way that we talk about using the Welsh language. And it uses psychology of how we approach learning and speaking Welsh, and encouraging this shift in mindset by incorporating phrases, very simple phrases like just a few words and we can, for example. So based on anecdotal evidence from our teachers, the following statements still appear to be quite prevalent in some schools. So this is the kind of thing that we're working to transform, transforming mindset, which goes hand in hand then with language teaching. So I'll go through these, and Aidan, and then if you've got anything to add. So we hear a lot, Welsh is boring. What we encourage our teachers to say and to do is Welsh is fun. Welsh is a hard language. Learning a new language, any new language, is a challenge, so bring it on. What's the point? Welsh is dying. Be 1 in a million. You can help keep Welsh alive. And the last one I've got is, I don't want to live in Wales anyway when I'm older. What's the point? Being bilingual is a skill wherever you are.
Yeah, the point that Welsh is boring is easy to attain if the teaching just conveys Welsh as another subject in school, and maybe people don't give, like we do with mathematics, we try to give the relevance of numeracy in the real world, why we needing to learn these skills. And I think the same is true for Welsh. Maybe teachers don't have the time all the time to convey the opportunities professionally and culturally and emotionally that the Welsh language can avail people.
Yeah, and often the Welsh teachers themselves come with a good deal of baggage, and they may feel some of these things themselves. So changing that mindset across the school, well, across the nation is crucial. So here are some quotes. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you very much to Nerys Jones. She's the lead education officer for Welsh in Swansea Council. And these expressions are directly from the children in the county. And I believe they show the impact of the collaborative efforts between her team and the schools, and how using the Siarter Iaith, the language charter that I'm going to talk about in a little more detail now, can impact this mindset. So lots of different quotes. I am going to move on and not read them, but they're all very positive. Let's see, we need to learn Welsh to keep the language alive. They feel that they're part of something much bigger. And Aidan, anything to add there?
Yeah, well, as a language pedant myself with my children as well, our Welsh is good because our teachers go on courses to help us. I think that's important for pupils to understand, but also the fun aspect of language learning. You can see from these comments that the whole of the language and its context has been conveyed, all the art that comes with it and culture, as well as the grammar and
all that good stuff. Obviously, not every learner is going to feel this way. Not every teacher is going to feel this way. But from personal experience visiting our schools, and especially I was in Portmead last week, this is the general vibe in the school. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. Okay, moving on. Talk to you a little bit now about y Siarter Iaith, the language charter. Mae'n ddrwg gen I, the Siarter Iaith, y Siarter Iaith. This is the Welsh Government initiative focused on encouraging and supporting the use of Welsh language in different aspects of school life. It involves setting goals, very specific goals, creating supportive environments and promoting a positive attitude towards the Welsh language. And it takes advantage of deductive or implicit learning and simply making Welsh fun for the children and the teachers and the parents. Yeah, okay. So schools progress through 3 different levels: bronze, silver, and gold. And they have to accomplish a set of specific goals. In order to achieve these goals, it takes the whole school. It isn't just one teacher, it isn't just one group of children. Everybody needs to be on board. And then this is evaluated by the county, who support, but then also come in externally to assess their progress on these steps here. For the purpose of this presentation, we're going to look at Targed 10, a positive attitude, Targed 4, the use of incidental Welsh outside the classroom, and Targed 1, establishing a visual Welsh ethos. Yeah, and I've put a QR code up there if anybody is interested in finding out more about a Siarter Iaith. So a case study. In Rhagoriaeth, we work with schools in Ceredigion, Pembrokeshire, Carmarthenshire, Swansea, Neath, Port Talbot, and Powys. I haven't missed out anyone, have I, Aneurin?
no.
But for this presentation, I'm just going to look at one school in particular. And this was the first primary school in Swansea to be awarded the Gold Award, a Wobr Aur, quite an achievement. So I'm going to run through these examples fairly quickly. We have a lot that we want to share with you today. But again, we'll have some questions at the end. And if you want to contact us for more information, please feel free to do that. A criw Cymraeg, the Welsh criw, a criw Cymraeg. This is central to everything really that happens with a siarter iaith. And it's an elected group of children from all year groups who work together to achieve the goals. They drive it forward in the school. So to attain this prestigious air, or the gold status, what Cheryl has done is she's really encouraged the children to take ownership of a Criw Cymraeg and the siarter. She monitors it, she encourages it, she scaffolds it, but the children are really crucial in driving it forward. And the Criw Cymraeg take part in all of these activities. If not, they lead them in the school. And they work with the local education officers. When I was in the school, one thing that really struck me last week was the use of Welsh very naturally, very impromptu. They didn't know why I was there having a wander around. And I could hear in the corridors, on the yard, in the dinner hall, Welsh was being incorporated by teachers, and those teachers are not first language Welsh speakers, but they are all embracing it and having a go.
And can you explain, is Portmead a Welsh medium school or an English medium school, Cara?
Yeah, it's an English medium school. There's all of the children come from non-Welsh speaking homes. It is an area, there's a lot of free school meals. There's not very much Welsh spoken in the area itself. So not only was their language level quite low, I think back in 2013, it was noted by Estyn when they came in that they needed to work on Welsh. The following year, they sent their first teacher on the sabbatical course. And when she went back, she transformed everything. Since then, we've had, I think, 3 teachers and a couple of TAs on our sabbatical courses to support this. So within 10 years, it went from being an issue within the school that they needed to work on to being the first school in the county to win a Wobr Aur. And it isn't just about winning the prize. I could see a difference in the school. I could see how they've embraced it and how the children are loving learning Welsh. Yeah.
And the sabbatical course Cymraeg mewn blwyddyn is a really, truly magical course, I think. It's government funded and it's run by Cardiff University as well as Trinity St David's and Bangor. But it's an opportunity where teachers from non-Welsh medium schools get an opportunity maybe to start learning Welsh from a base level of very little Welsh to become fluent speakers and go back to become language learners at the end of the year, the academic year in their schools.
Yeah, it really is. It's quite tough, isn't it? And we pack a lot into either 1 term or 2 terms. And we work on the methodology as well, but we also work on attitude, that they go back feeling really positive about what they're doing and they can support other teachers in their school. So let's see, what have I got here? Lots of different pictures. This is the kind of thing that you see in the schools. 100%, I can tell you hand on my heart that Welsh is everywhere. Everywhere you turn in this school, there's something yn Gymraeg or about Wales or the dragon. There are more posters in Welsh on the walls than there are in English. The children talk about their classes as dosbarth derbyn, blwyddyn 3. It's really integrated across the school. The wall graffiti, you can see in the picture here, and lots of signage. So of course there has been significant investment in this work, both time-wise and financially. And I asked Cheryl about this because some schools may not be able to afford signage, and what she said was their school can't afford to buy a lot of signage. But it's been a lengthy process over 10 years. And when they can, they buy new signs, they apply for grants, they do fundraising within the school, which again means that everyone's buying into this idea quite literally. It's an investment in their children. You can see the cerrig cami, the stepping stones in the middle there, and they run throughout the corridors. The same phrases are on the school gates as you walk in, and that's to encourage the parents to use Welsh, and they know that when they're coming onto the school grounds, that they can siarad Cymraeg. Let's have a look beth arall sy gyda fi. So amser cinio, the kitchen staff are encouraged to use a little bit of Welsh. Of course, they're not Welsh speaking. So Cheryl provides lots of scaffolding, little lessons for them to get them confident. And the children love that they can speak a little bit of Welsh amser cinio with the kitchen staff. As you can see in the other picture here, for rainy days, they can play games, pull out Welsh board games. do Welsh crafts, and it's all scaffolded. Everywhere you look, there's little Polly Pockets full of language mats or sentence starters, instructions on how to play these games in Gymraeg, and you can see QR codes as well to help them with the language that they need. Okay, let's have a look. Gafi Weld, amser gwasanaeth, and you can see here the Criw Cymraeg lead the Welsh Assemblies. It's all in their hands. They're here awarding Seren yr Wythnos, the Star of the Week, to different children that they hear, the Criw Cymraeg, hear speaking Welsh throughout the week, outside of the classroom, on the yard, and they're celebrated here. One thing, the head teacher, Mr. Thomas, is no longer there. Miss Evans is the head, but he would challenge the children to a competition, a vocab competition, and the winning team would get 5 minutes extra playtime. Let's have a look. We've also got a Clwb Cymraeg. So in the Clwb Cymraeg, they encourage the children to use Welsh, and they can also learn more informally about Welsh culture, for example, taking a myth and then doing some creative activities, creating puppets, etc. Patrwm yr Wythnos. So every week, the Criw Cymraeg, they choose the pattern of the week, which they record in the selfie stand. That video is shared in assembly. It's shared throughout the school, and it's also sent home for the parents to be involved. Let's have a look. Oh, another of our schools I want to mention, they have a weekly podcast where they play Welsh music, and they go around the school asking the teachers to answer Cwestiwn yr Wythnos, or the pattern of the week. And they have lots of fun. The teacher sends them to me. She was on our sabbatical. She sends them every week, and the children are having a blast. Really good, happy vibe. The teachers are enjoying it. And when the teachers can't speak the Welsh, they use the patrwm, a little bit of English, but it's a really positive thing, and the children take ownership of that. The podcast is also shared with the parents at home. So another of our schools has a monthly Caffi Cymraeg, where parents can come in and the children serve them, and they're encouraged to ask for what they want in Welsh. It's all very scaffolded, but the children love it, getting a chance to show off their Welsh, but it's also bringing the parents in and getting them involved. A lot of our teachers do workshops for the parents so that they feel a part of it. Perhaps they do feel quite disenfranchised themselves from their own experiences with Welsh. So this is just a lovely way of bringing them in, sharing Patrwm yr Wythnos, sharing language mats and QR codes with the parents so that they can be involved and that they feel that they can help their children and be involved. Other things here, we encourage our students to take part in Diwrnod Siwmai Siwmai. Basically, it's an everything in Welsh day. Dydd Music Cymru, taking part in the Urddau Steddfod, or having visitors come in. Again, opening doors to the culture to them. Having visitors come in, Ynni Da, Bronwen Lewis, Welsh Whisperer, Aneurin Caradog, for example, and Peniar. Aneurin, would you like to say something else there?
Yeah, these are brilliant days within the calendar that schools all across Wales can take advantage of, and I think bringing in role models and people who use the language who gain prominence, such as Bronwen Lewis has through a program like The Voice on a UK level, but sings in Welsh, for example. And the element of competition, but also celebration. And Diwrnod Siwmai Siwmai, for example, is a brilliant day for starting every sentence in every chat you have with someone through the medium of Welsh with whatever or however little words you have, and then hopefully grow in from there. And there's a wealth of pop music in the Welsh language. I noticed we have a question in the Q&A about technology later on we can answer, but I think the Welsh, and comparatively speaking, from the point of view of the Breton language, which is my other maternal language, I think Welsh is in a much more modern setting, less traditionally seen language, and thus it's easier to convince people that it's a language that's still alive, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Talking about Welsh music then, perhaps traditionally children haven't perhaps connected Welsh or Welshness with contemporary music, but in this school and in a lot of our schools, they do celebrate Welsh music. There's a QR code there to some of my favourite Welsh songs, a playlist on YouTube. Don't judge me. So in this school, Welsh music, contemporary Welsh music is played throughout the break times, on the yard. This school holds Santes Dwynwen Disco. So Santes Dwynwen is the Welsh Valentine. So that's celebrated at the end of January, a disco, again, Welsh music. This school also holds an X Factor competition that has become quite a big thing in the Swansea area, and other schools are getting on board. And they sing contemporary Welsh songs and compete against each other. Year groups compete against each other, and there's an element of competition, which can be quite fierce, apparently. But again, this all encourages motivation, and that opens doors and opens minds to becoming successful learners and wanting to learn the language. So let's see what else. Amser chwarae. So one of the most popular activities on the Siarter Iaith, the language charter, is yard games through the medium of Welsh. Once again, the Criw Cymraeg lead these activities. So the motivation here and the push is coming from within. All of these activities are scaffolded by the teachers, by Cheryl. But what she's noticed, of course, over the last 10 years, with more and more children becoming part of the Criw Cymraeg or taking part in these games, that less and less scaffolding is needed. And these yard games yn y Gymraeg are becoming part of the school's culture and the school's tradition. So it's developing, it's becoming quite an organic thing. What I wanted to note here is what Aneirin said, is that these children don't have Welsh at home. This is the only Welsh that they get. So I think that's quite significant, the change that's happened in the last 10 years. Now, I'm going to run really quickly through these ideas because I know Aneirin's got a lot to tell you as well. So I'm going to run really quickly. Whistle Stop Tour. You're probably familiar with a lot of these games. And if you want, you can always revisit these or contact us afterwards for a chat. That would be great. So just some basic games here. Statues, traffic lights, playing sharks. All of these are really simple games, and they may not be moving the language on particularly. For example, statues, they're standing as statues, they're probably not talking. But this is a great way to encourage incidental Welsh, your use of commands. Then we've got old favourites like hopscotch, but of course, with the appropriate scaffolding, they can practice days of the week, numbers, colours, foods, clothes, they can build sentences. Sefyll yn stond, freeze tag. This is a really nice one because it's asking a question in Welsh and then answering it unfreezes you. So the Welsh language unlocks that. Again, you can make it quite simple, but it could be a lot more advanced with appropriate scaffolding. Then we've got clapping games. There's a whole host of different clapping games. And once the children have done it a few times, they don't need the scaffolding. They can create their own ones. Okay. A very simple game here, quite a big explanation for a simple game, but this is a really nice one for developing vocabulary, where the teacher calls out different words. So it's also bringing in that element of ear training. These games here are really popular amongst other teachers on our sabbatical courses and also our other courses, our other Welsh language courses. Endless possibilities, passing a ball up and down a line, over the head, under the legs, passing a ball around in a circle. What's really nice here is that there's that element of competition and that you can differentiate here with different patterns. What else? Let's have a look. Old favourites. Mr. Broga, gai groes i'r afon. Mr. Frog, may I cross the river? Dim ond os wyt ti'n gwisgo, only if you're wearing something. My Simon and Dwayne, Simon says, another favourite, but you can vary it. Use different kinds of commands. So it's that sort of implicit learning. You could also turn this into an error detection game and correction, that you can only do the action if it's said correctly. And can you hear the error? I know that might be taking the fun out of it just a little bit, but faint o'r gloch ydi Mr. Blythe, that old favourite, what time is it, Mr. Wolf? All of these games, for example, these ones can be adapted and extended and differentiated with a focus on language. Skipping, fa, the beans game. That's lots of fun using commands. Mr. Men, again, extending those commands. These are commands that will then transfer back into the classroom. And let's see, during wet playtimes, games and board games led by the older children, creating that intergenerational or that prestige again that they're playing with the older children, very generic scaffolding that any language pattern can be put into. And I'm going to finish my whistle stop tour, you'll be glad to hear, with some of our language mats. And this supports both the learners and the teachers. Now, I could talk for hours and hours about the amazing work that's happening in our schools. They're giving children an opportunity to become bilingual and to feel a sense of pride in their heritage. But for now, I am going to stop talking and I'm going to hand over to you, Aneurin, who's going to talk to you about barddoniaeth poetry beyond the classroom.
Great, yeah, diolch. But I just want to mention also all those activities. I think they're great models for what we can do. We've talked about pupils being on a continuum, but I think schools in Wales need to be on a continuum as well. In Cardiff, there's going to be a revolutionary school. It's going to be dual streamed in terms of Welsh medium and English medium, but there will be subjects taught in the English medium side through the medium of Welsh, and that doesn't really happen. But if you consider these games that Cara mentioned, sports or physical activities, art can be taught maybe with commands given by the teacher through the medium of Welsh for what to do next or whatever, and pupils understanding and attaining the language. So I think it's all very exciting if things can move in that direction. Diolch o galon, Cara. Yes, I'm going to talk about one of my passions, which is writing poetry. And the fact that in 2013, 2015, I was very honoured to be chosen in the role of Bardd Plant Cymru, which we shall come to in a moment, which is the Children's Poet of Wales. But we look first of all at some cursory glances that I've put together in terms of the benefits of creating writing as a language learning tool, because some of this comes from teaching English through the medium of creative writing, but of course we can aid people's development, pupils in schools, young people and children younger than the young people class, primary schools and secondary school, in their language development, even as as natural Welsh speakers or children who are coming to dysgu Cymraeg from non-Welsh speaking background. And maybe one of the most prominent thinkers in Welsh academia was R.M. Jones, or Bobby Jones, and he was a Welsh learner himself from Cardiff, but a highly cerebral and sometimes overcomplicated academic, but has brilliant ideas. And in terms of what goes on in the engineering of creative writing, he talks about cerdd dafod and cerdd fynegiant. Cerdd meaning poem, and tafod meaning tongue, and mynegiant in its mutated form there, fynegiant meaning expression. So cerdd dafod in the Bobby Jones sense, not to be mixed up with Cynghanedd, which is a completely different thing, are the resources that a poet or a writer has at his or her disposal before they've come to writing a poem, before they've come to expressing themselves. And those are the things that you all, day in, day out, all year round, teachers are building up within pupils. And then when the Bardd Plant visits your class, or hopefully takes the pupils out of the class, and you meet the Children's Poet of Wales or the creative practitioners in a different setting to the classroom, the cerdd fynegiant is what you have at the end of the session, hopefully what has been expressed on paper, but also performed. When I was doing school visits as Bardd Plant Cymru, the writing and the performing was very important. I noticed one of our attendees has an interest in recording. I think you can gain a lot of confidence in that part as well. And then it's we'll move on. And this is from the British Council website, and it just talks about maybe some of the misconceptions and some of the academic studies to come up show that maybe people think the creative writing isn't an efficient way. But if you consider that you need to convey a specific form, if you're not adhering to the conventions of that form, be it a limerick, a haiku, a sonnet, then you're not accomplishing what needs doing. And then giving the framework, even though it might feel stifling, it actually quickens the process of creating, I think. Once people know what they have to fill out in terms of poetic form, I think that allows them to then go on and create. I won't read the whole quote now because we've got to crack on as well, and we want to take some of your questions as well. And your slide nesa there. So as I mentioned, some misconceptions of creative writing: free write focused, mistake laden, not academic. There are no rubrics and no structure. It doesn't have to be any of those kinds of things. And I think what's brilliant about creative writing is, yes, it's embracing, observing, looking at the world around us, conveying emotions, but we're getting people to play with language, and you have to be, in my experience, not scared of making mistakes when you're playing with language, and when those mistakes get made, quietly maybe correcting as you're going around. There are ways of encouraging people into correcter forms without putting them down and knocking the confidence out of them, which is really important, I think. And that's from Patrick T. Randolph, who's done a recent study on creative writing. A wedyn, nyn ni symud ymlaen I sôn am Bardd Plant Cymru. We'll talk about Bardd Plant Cymru as a project which is government funded and it's co-funded by the Welsh Government and S4C, and also has backing from the Urdd as a youth movement, the Books Council, and Literature Wales, who are the administrators of the project. And as you can see, we have down the bottom here Nia Moraish, who is the most current with the Bardd Plant Cymru logo near her photo, incumbent in the job. But we go back right back to the year 2000, and it's very similar, I find, to Doctor Who. After the end of 1 year or 2 years, the poet regenerates into a completely different being who gets their chance to put their stamp on it. But I think it's the fact that it's continued since the year 2000 and gone from strength to strength. We have no shortage of poets in Wales, which is a brilliant thing to say. And ni symud ymlaen i'r slide nesa. And also that each poet gets to put their stamp on it. So creative writing is one of the main purposes of the role, but also I think it is to improve and make use of people's Welsh. So even though maybe the main staple of the work of Bardd Plant Cymru is to visit schools, they can visit clubs, they can do similar things to what the Laureate Nanog has been doing in Ireland as well. We had Owen Colfer, the author of Artemis Fowl in Ireland. He did a project called Once Upon a Place, where schools were taken out to do workshops and visits and storytelling on trains or in castles. And Bardd Plant Cymru does that as well and engages digitally. When I was Bardd Plant, we had the big poem. It was created where people were invited to send in videos, and one poor video editor had to stick those videos together at my command over 2 days work. But that was a really good platform for people to share in their work. And Cassie Wynn, the previous incumbent before Nia Moraish, has done important work with poems, letters to Ukraine, for example, and also a poem that was broadcast in the stadium before Wales played the main qualifier before the Wales-Ukraine game to get to the World Cup for the first time since 1958. But also I think the Bardd Plant Cymru has a role, and there are similar roles within the English language in Wales as well. previously the Young People's Laureate and the Children's Laureate now. But hopefully, as Beirdd Plant, we can inspire the teachers as well, because with the new curriculum post-Donaldson report, creativity is supposed to be infused into the STEM subjects in Wales. And we'll come to a quick example maybe in the next slide. Cara mentioned scaffolding as one of the things. So I've just come freshly off a Hay Festival tour, and it's really great. A sign of this positivity around the language is that Hay Festival in Hay-on-Wye, just over the border, within the Welsh border, but has traditionally been maybe associated with the Anglo-American literary world. But it does pay real attention to its heritage with the Welsh language. So we've had 5 days of a Welsh language tour where Nia Moraes and Cassie Wynn were both conducting 2 3/4 of an hour sessions, one about storytelling in horror story, in the worlds of horror stories, and Cassie Wynn then having a real dialogue and a chat with the pupils, with the disgyblion, I was going to say, before they got to create. So they were scaffolded and warmed up, and little exercises were done before we reached the point in this video. And well, the Scribblers Tour is brilliant and a great way for schools to get out of school and go to different universities, Wrexham, Bangor, Aberystwyth, Swansea and Cardiff, and where we are making use of our language in a purely Welsh language setting, but also developing creative writing. And what we have in this video is Cassie Wynn singing, freestyling the melody on the spot, but singing the words of a pupil called Tyrion, who in the last 15 minutes, because I find in these types of scenarios, once you have provided enough material and warmed up and got some engagement in that scaffolding, the actual creating can happen very quickly. So pupil called Tyrion had written beautiful words, imagining a world without bombs, and where families and laughter exist, and full of colour, and where the final line is where we can be ourselves without fear as well. So we'll just play Cassie singing this.
Iawn. Felly, dychmygwn fi. Dwi'n gorau meddwl fan hyn, dydw. Dychmygwn fi, llawn teulu a ffrindiau. Dychmygwn fi, heb ryfel na bomiau. Dychmygwn fi, sydd yn llawn lliwiau. Dychmygwn fi, lle gallai fod yn fi heb ofnau. Dyna ni.
Mae llais Cassie Wynn yn fendigedig. So there we go. We're reaching the end of our talk, but hopefully not the end of the session, because we will be taking questions from yourselves. And thank you for the comments as well. I just want to mention Sean Casey's comment, Cara, when you were discussing in the first third of our presentation, a good teacher can make any subject exciting, and it's so important to have good teacher. Yes, that formation of teachers is really important, and a bad teacher can really turn a pupil off from a subject, which anecdotally I've heard. Also, I just want to mention one thing that Anya Venables, the outreach manager of the Scribblers Tour in Hay Festival, mentioned, which happened in an English language Scribblers Tour. There was a pupil who had elective muteness in the school, had been creating a poem, and just suddenly this was last year, suddenly got up and read out a poem that she'd written in front of everyone. So I'm really interested to see Anya will be meeting that school again with next year's Scribbler Tour in February. What was the progression within the school afterwards for that pupil, and the confidence gained from creative writing. Yeah.
I can see a question here. Is this for first or second language? And there is a version for Welsh speaking schools as well. There's a bit of debate over it, as in should we need to do it? The truth of the matter is that we do still need to encourage everybody to use the Welsh language. So yeah, there is a scheme for both schools.
There's a question in the Q&A. Thank you, Donovan, for sending this question quite early on. How do new words regarding modern concepts and technology get into the Welsh language? What is the policy? I think we're quite fortunate, would you say, Cara, that, for example, Al Hughes's daily morning programme on Radio Cymru, when a new term comes up, they often discuss what's the Welsh word for selfie. We know it's hinlin, but there are many, of course, technology introduces new facets into language all the time. And there are things now that we don't know what will exist in the Welsh language in 10 years. But we're quite adept and enjoy playing through the media, and also in schools with new terms. There are some varying terms. I know for a pencil sharpener, some would say naddwr, others would say miniwr, but generally Welsh has been standardized quite early on compared to some other minority languages early on in the 20th century. So we've got a way of spelling that is common to all, and there are structures with syntactical structures and how to build words that we can Welshify technology, technoleg in that sense.
Yeah, agree.
Do we have any other questions?
Someone asked something about apps, Aneurin, and technology, perhaps.
There was that one in the Q&A by Donovan.
And that's another thing, is that teachers do encourage their children to use various apps that are available. And with the work that we do in Peniarth, an educational beth yw'r gair? Cwmni cyhoeddi. We have a publishing branch of what we do in the University of Wales, Trinity St David, called Peniarth. So we do primarily do printed resources, but we also have a lot of digital resources that either go along with those printed resources or that are standalone, and they cover a broad spectrum of subjects. And Aidan, can you say anything else?
Yeah, well, you're in. I'm thinking of my previous answer to the previous question as well. We have what's called the Corpus Cymraeg. So that is, Welsh Corpora. I think it's run by Prifysgol Adran Gymraeg Prifysgol Abertawe, where they have been monitoring people's use on social media and gathering a body of Welsh words. So that's a really exciting project. And also the work we have mentioned that the Coleg Cymraeg does, I think the Federal College, that can, so Cara and I could do a lesson for someone in Bangor University via a video link, for example, but they also encourage the use of Welsh beyond Welsh as a subject. So if you want to study neuroscience through the medium of Welsh, and there isn't that outlet yet, then many people will be encouraged to do masters and PhD in these fields, so that there is more Welsh speaking ability within fields beyond the language itself. If there are any more questions, do add them in the Q&A or the chat. Oh, there might be one coming in. Fel arall, os na gyda ti'n rhywbeth i'w ychwanegu, Cara?
No, I don't think I've got anything else to add, but for everybody, thank you so much. Diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd. We really enjoyed being able to
There
share.
is one further question by Donovan, if we can. So thank you for your comment on standardization. However, who chooses what words get into the Welsh dictionary? Is it academics? That's a good question. Yeah, we have a termiadur, which is a Welsh government-run database of words that translators would be dipping into, but also we have Geiriadur Prifysgol Cymru, the dictionary of the University of Wales, which is a historical dictionary which has been digitized now, so it's easier for them to add words. So yeah, it's a mix of academics.
It
And
is a mix, isn't it? And sometimes words just grow organically, and the people choose a word perhaps that's different to the one that has been selected by the academics. But I think we are as a country very interested in our words, and we love discussing words.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
know.
So
Yeah.
if that's all the questions for now, massive diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd. Please contact us if you've got any further questions or any ideas that you'd like to share with us. Felly diolch yn fawr iawn.
Diolch o galon.